Hello, I'm Li Hao. Welcome back to Evan of Code 2023, and we are solving programming challenges every day. And today we are on day 9. So we've been solving 8 puzzles in the past 8 days, and we are going to look at day 9. So let's see. So day 9, Mirage maintenance. You ride the camel through the sandstorm and stop where the ghost maps told you to stop. The sandstorm subsequently subsides, somehow seeing you standing at an oasis. The camel goes to get some water, and you stretch your neck. Ugh. As you look up, you discover what must be yet another giant floating island. This one made of metal. That must be where the parts to fix the sand machines come from. There's even a hang glider partially buried in the sand here. Once the sun rises and heats up the sand, you might be able to use the glider and the hot air to get all the way up to the metal island. While you wait for the sun to rise, you admire the oasis hidden here in the middle of the desert island. It must have a delicate ecosystem. You might as well take some ecological readings while you wait. Maybe you can report any environmental instabilities you find to someone so that the oasis can be around for the next sandstorm-worn traveler. You pull out your handy oasis and sand instability sensor and analyze your surrounding. The oasis, OASIS, produces a report of many values and how they are changing over time, which is your puzzle input. Each line in the report contains a history of a single value, for example like this. To best protect the oasis, your environmental report should include a prediction of the next value in each history. To do this, you start by making a new sequence from the difference at each step of your history. If that sequence is not all zeros, repeat this process, using the sequence you just generated as the input sequence. Once all of the value in your latest sequence are zeros, you can extrapolate what the next value of the original history should be. In the above datasets, the first history is like this, right? Because the values increase by 3 at each step, the first sequence of difference that you will generate is like this, right? So 3 minus 0 is 3, 6 minus 3 is 3, 9 minus 3 is 3, so you get 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Now, this sequence has one fewer value than the input sequence because at each step, it considers 2 numbers from the input and get the difference, right? So you have 6 numbers, but then like you have only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 differences, right? And since these values aren't all 0, repeat this process. The value differs by 0 at each step, so the next sequence will be 0, 0, 0, 0, right? So 3 minus 3 is 0, 3 minus 3 is 0, 0, 0. This means that you have enough information to extrapolate the history. Visually, these sequences can be arranged like this. To extrapolate, start by adding a new 0 to the end of your list of zeros. Because the zeros represent differences between the two values above them, this also means that now the placeholder in every sequence above it, right? So like this. So you can start filling in the placeholder from the bottom up. A needs to be the result of increasing 3 plus 0 equals to 3. The value so is left by 0. So A must be 3. Finally, you can fill in B, which needs to be the result of increasing 15. So 15 by 3 equals 18. The next value is 18. So find all 0 differences for the second history requires additional sequences. So the next input is 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, which gives us this. And then the difference again is like this, and then difference is like this. Alright, so then following the same process as before, work out the next value in each sequence from the bottom up. So we have 1 more 0, and then 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 6 is 7, 21 plus 7 is 28. So the next value of the second history is 28. And then the same way you go for the third history, and then the value you get is 68. Okay? And if you find the next value in each history, you get 1. So you find the next value of each history and then add them together. So 68 plus 28 plus 18 is 114. Analyze your Oasis report and extrapolate the next value for each history. What is the sum of these extrapolated values? So let's go to our code and figure this out. Okay, so we are at day 9. Let's create a file called day 9 puzzle 1. So in this puzzle, we are going, as usual, input. So you can see here we have all the past puzzles in this folder, and we actually push them onto my GitHub. If you want to find all these solutions, you can look at the link in the description below, and you can find all these solutions over here, right? So let's start with using the example input and figure out and see whether we calculated as the same answer as what we get through this walkthrough. And then later we will copy the actual puzzle input and run that through. Alright, first thing is now every line input is every line, and then each number is separated by white spaces. So first thing is let's define the answer, which is 0 first, and then let's loop through every line of input.split new line. And then for each new line, we are getting this line. We're gonna split by spaces to get all the numbers. Numbers equals to line split by new line. Sorry, not new line, white space. And then for every number, we are going to turn it into actual number. Right, so after you split, you get a string of 0, 3, 6, 19, 12, 15. I'm going to turn them into number using this number. So numbers will give us an array of numbers. With that array of numbers, next thing is we need to figure out what is the next number, right? Next number is something that we need to figure out. And let's say 0. And then after we figure out our next number, our answer will have to plus with this next number. And the final answer is actually the sum of all next numbers. So this is our final answer. Okay, so the next thing is what is the next number, right? We see this way, we can keep doing, we are basically given from, hold on, where is this? The first example, this one, right? We're giving this series, and then we need to keep getting the differences until we get all zeros, and then we will able to add up and find out the next number, right? So if you actually look at this visualization over here, and as you can see from my pasting, the white space is a bit off, but actually that's what I want to try and show you. Right, so actually this is an array that we have, and we can update this value by, we can modify this existing array by this value is equals to the difference between these two number, and then this value is going to be a difference between those two number. This value is going to be difference between these two number. This value is going to be a difference between this new number. This value is going to be difference between this. So we're going to iterate throughout the array and then mutate our array element by element by calculating the difference between this current element, right? This value is actually the current element being minus off from the next element, right? So we go through to calculate all this value, and if it's not all zeros, then we're gonna do it the same thing again. We iterate through this and then figure out this value, this value, this value, this value, and if all of them are zeros, then we basically hit where we should stop calculating the differences. Then the next thing we need to do is actually figure out the next number, right? So for basically every element, right? So the next number is actually, this one is always 0, and then this number is actually this, the next number from here is actually 0 plus 3, right? And then so this number is always starting from 0, right? So this is, let me draw it like this. This is 0, And then this is basically 0 plus 3 is 3. And then this next number is basically 3 plus 15, right? Is 18. And then the answer is 18. And as you can see, actually, from here, we can add these two numbers to get the next number. And then that sum, basically we add with the next number to get this number, right? And so basically after we iterate through, keep iterating, and then until we get all zeros, then for whatever the remaining value is, 3 and 15, we sum it up, we will get our next number. So let me show you again what I mean with maybe another example like this over here. Right, immediately if you try to align the value like this, oops, like this, like this, like this, then you can see that we'll just iterate through and then get the difference, update the difference. Like this value is basically the current value minus this one. This value is current value being minus off by this one. This value is gonna update this value by this one. Is this difference? And then if it's not all zero, again, this value is updated based on this, the difference. This is based on the difference. It's based on the difference. Based on difference. It's not all zero, then we do again. Difference, difference, difference. So by the end of it, you get 0, 0, 0, all zeros from this point to here, right? And then next, the sum, the result of the next value is we're gonna have 0 plus 2, which gives us 2. And then 2 plus 8 gives us 10. And then 10 should be here, right? 10 should be here. So 10 plus 23 is going to be 33. So 33 is supposed to be here, right? But we keep it in our memory. 33 plus 68 will give us 101. 33 plus 68 give us 101. Oh, sorry. This is the answer, but basically it's the same idea, right? So if you don't have this, don't have this, don't have this, then we'll start with 2 plus 6 equals 8. 2 plus 6 equals 8. 8 plus 15 equals 27. 27 plus 45 equals 72. Hey, hold on. 20. I think I did my math wrong somewhere. 2, 4, 6 is 8. 8 plus 15 is 23. 23 plus 45 is 68. Right? So once we hit 0, then we just sum out the remaining numbers and we'll get the next number. Right? Sounds fair enough. So once we figure out the pattern over here, let's try to write our code instead. Let me just comment this off so we can reference to it. So I will start with we'll start with initializing the n. Let n equals to numbers.length minus 1. And we'll keep looping. We'll keep doing this minus thing until we hit all zeros, right? So I will just say while true, and then later on we will have a condition, right? Some condition that we will able to break it, right? But before that, let's just do a while loop to while keep doing the minus thing, right? So for minus, we will always start with 0 and I less than the n. Okay, so I will not do it until the last element. We'll just do it until the last element minus 1. Right, so it's just less than the last element. So here, the numbers I actually will be numbers I plus 1 minus the numbers I. Just keep doing this until we hit the end. And then we're going to check whether all numbers are 0, right? So we can have a variable is 0 equals to true. And if the number is not equals to 0, then is 0 is equals to false, right? And then at the end, if is 0, it is true, then we're going to break this while loop, which means we finish figuring out which means from 0 to n, they're all zeros. Of course, this one will not keep looping until the end. At every iteration, n is going to be minus 1, right? We were going to decrement n, right? So from initially, we're going to loop to n is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 element, we'll loop to 5. And later on, n is 5. We're going to loop to 4 numbers. If n is 4 numbers, then we'll loop to 3, right? And n is 3 numbers, we'll loop to 2. And then by this time, I think we can put here instead. So the n is actually at 3 numbers, and then we found it's all 0. Then basically we break, then we are at this right position, then we just keep adding some up, right? So for let I equals to n, I less than numbers dot length I plus plus. I'm gonna sum up this next number. So next number is from 0, it's okay. And then next number is gonna sum up all the numbers that we have remaining from here onwards, right? So imagine this has updated, but this is still at 2, this element still at 6, this element still at 15. We're just gonna sum it up, and then that'll be our next number. And then finally answer is sum of all the next number, right? So let's try and see if this works. So I will run day 9, puzzle 1, and we have 114. And this is the same answer as the sample. So we're going to get our actual puzzle input. This looks huge. I'm going to copy them. And then I'm going to paste it in. Okay, I'm going to save. And then I am going to run. And I get a number. I'm going to paste that number in. And we're going to hope that it is the right answer. Yes, it is the right answer, and we got 1 gold star. And now we are going to closer to restore the snow operations. This is part 2. So of course, this will be nice to have even more history included in your reports. Surely it's safe to just extrapolate backwards as well, right? For each history, repeat the process to find the differences until the sequence of differences is entirely 0. Then rather than adding a 0 to the end and filling in the next values of each previous sequence, you should instead add a 0 in the beginning of a sequence of zeros, then fill in the first value for each previous sequence. Okay, in particular, here is what the third example history like, extrapolating back in time. Adding new values to the left side of each sequence from the bottom to the top eventually reveals the leftmost history value, 5. Doing this for the remaining example data above results in a previous value of previous values of -3 for the first history, 0 for the second history. Adding all 3 values together produces 2. Okay, so analyze your Oasis report again, this time extrapolating the previous value for each history. What is the sum of these extrapolated values? So it's the same logic, but now we extrapolate back. So 0 over here, 2 minus 0 is 2, 0 minus 2 is -2, 3 minus -2 is actually 5, because 2 minus minus 2 is plus 5. And 10 minus 5 is 5. And then this is 5. Okay, so tricky thing now, let's see. Let's see whether we can use the same technique. So let's copy back this one. This is gonna be our puzzle 2. And we are going to use back the same sample input first, just to get the hang of whether we are on the right track. Let's paste this in. So this is the sample input. And now we are going to extrapolate to the left. So which means actually now if we try to align this like this, okay, then let's see our technique still works, right? So 15 minus 12 is 3. We put here, right, override this value, and then this value is actually 12 minus 9 is 3. This value is 9 minus 6 is 3. And then we just do it, the same thing. And then we keep updating this value. And once we reach the end over here, we were gonna minus the value, right? So, so basically 3 minus 0, we get 3. And then this minus 3 minus 0. Wait, we get 3. And then 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Right? So the first value is negative 3 on the history. Sounds about right. So every time we get a value, 3 we minus the 0, we get a value. And then we find out what this value is. Minus of this value, we get another value. And we look up minus this value, we get another value. Right? I think that's how we're gonna do it. So instead we call previous number, we're gonna call instead of calling next number, we're gonna call it the previous number. Okay, and this logic now, instead of we have the n is equals to, instead of we looping from the beginning to the end, we are actually gonna loop from the end to the beginning. Right, so this is the starting point, and the starting point is gonna be 0. And while it's true, we are going to start with, at the end of the numbers dot length minus 1, while it's greater than the starting point. We're gonna decrement ourselves. And then this number that we have is actually the current number minus of the previous number. Okay, and if it's not 0, this, and then we'll break, and then the start is actually going to be incrementing. So we will minus off less and less number. Okay, and then once we finish this loop, this will be a reverse as well. So we start with the starting point. I think that's okay. And then the previous, and then so the value of this previous number is actually, hold on. So this one we're gonna start equals to 0. And then the previous number, so the result we're gonna get is actually this number minus of the previous number. Right? And then we just keep looping where this number is minus of this previous number, and then this will be our answer. And then let's run this and see, and see whether we get this correct. So we get, based on the sample, we get 2, which is the sample answer. And so let's copy in the actual puzzle input, and let's paste it in. And then we're gonna run this. We get a number. I'm gonna copy this number, come back, I'm gonna paste it in. I'm gonna hit submit. And yay, that's the right answer. And we have 2 stars for day 9. And that's it for today. We gotta see you in day 10. Bye bye.